Hi and welcome to Dr. Mix. You guys alright? I am again at the video station and today I want to explain to you how I mix audio for YouTube. There should be a disclaimer here. I'm not advocating that this is the best way to do it, but based on my experience, this is the way I have decided to do it. And I'll get a little bit deeper into it, but just as a disclaimer, one man's opinion, all right? What you're gonna hear today is gonna be, of course, my voice from the microphone, but you will also be listening to the audio output of Premiere Pro. I'm recording that with an external recorder, but this recorder is after my monitor control level. So I am going to change, I will always say it when I do, just because there will be some gain staging to do and I don't want you not to be able to hear, right? So I will have to adjust the monitor. So you will be basically mixing with me and I will tell you when I touch that monitor level, all right? So this is Adobe Premiere Pro. Even if you are using a different program, don't worry because I will explain the concepts here. So you can apply it to anything. These are principles that are good on any platform or a mixer or Cubase or Pro Tools. This is just mixing. I just happen to use this specific program. So Premiere Pro has a pretty basic mixer, but it allows us to run plugins, which is something. This is something that we have already edited before. I have removed all of the mixing and I've left the microphone track, which is this one. And when I say microphone, I mean the lavalier microphone, the one that I pin here. And sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable, but sometimes I choose to use that. Or otherwise, alternatively, I use the microphone that is right now on this camera. Let me show it to you. This one. So whether it's that one or the lapel microphone here, the treatment is pretty much the same. I want to make sure that we're getting in with the right level. So how do I know if it's the right level? Here we got the microphone, here we got the music. This is what I am recording off the mixer, okay? Only 2 channels. I want to make sure that from the get-go, the level of the voice is correct going into the channel itself. If I put the channel at 0, aka unity, that's what it's called when you have it at 0, and I play it, and it's going to check. Now I can see that here I'm hitting about -12. This is not by coincidence because I always make sure that my voice is around that level when I record. Because we have space for music to get louder, we don't risk hitting 0, which would mean a digital distortion. That we don't want. We don't want the sound to be too quiet, but not too loud either. So how do we make sure that that's the case? Say, for example, that this audio was a little bit too loud. So what I tend to do is I select all of the audio, then I right-click on any of this bit. I go audio gain. There's also a shortcut, which is G, right? So adjust by gain. Say that I wanted 5 dBs more, okay? So now, all of a sudden, same bit as before. The next step uses... See, now it's peaking at -6. Let me do Control Z, and now I am back. You see, let me zoom in. Control Shift Z for redo. Yeah? And then this yellow thing saying effects appears, which means you have touched the clip volume. And if I go Control Z for undo, it goes back to what it was before. The reason why is because if you go too quiet, then you find yourself having to adjust the master. Just don't forget, this is the microphone, this is the music, and this is the master. This means the output, what you're actually getting out of the whole system. And it's going to check. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to put it up like that. Sound of my, because you have to make up for lack of signal here. This means that the gain staging would be wrong because you're going in too quiet and then you're having to push the master fader. Same thing for here. So basically your aim is for the mix to be completely at 0 everywhere, have the sound not to peak above -12, reverb below 0, all right? You have a plate. Okay, so the way I treat vocals is usually this. I open right here, and I select Dynamics. Now you may say, Dr. Mix, you call yourself Dr. Mix and you use stock plugins. Yes, I use stock plugins when mixing audio in Premiere Pro. Why? Because those plugins always work, all right? I don't need to do anything dramatic here. I don't need anything fancy. I just need to clean up the sound, make sure it's at the right level, and that it stays there. So I don't need much. I need something that I can open across multiple systems, because in the studio we have many systems. So to ensure compatibility between one system and the other, I just keep it simple. I just use Dynamics. I don't need to do much to it anyway. But let's dive into it. Dynamics. One thing that I tend to do is I put an AutoGate. What is it, an AutoGate? It's a noise gate. This means that if there is this level of noise and then I speak over it, every time I speak, the level of the sound will go up. So if I put a gate that says, if the level is just above the noise floor, noise of the room, the ambience, whatever, mute the channel, right? Let me show you. This is the AutoGate. I am going to leave an attack time of 1 millisecond. I really want it fast. I am going to give it all the way release up and all the way the hold up. I want to make sure that the gate stays open and doesn't close too fast.
Here, hole here,
see?
And reflections up.
Now this is not letting my voice through.
Balance.
Now
Let's
this
see how they
is
sound.
letting my voice through.
Use a balance between the three of them.
So this is the threshold above which the channel will be on and below which the channel will be off or muted.
Let's see how they sound.
So I have found out that I can put the threshold all the way down in majority of cases. So say, for example, here, you see me here speak, and this is probably me breathing, or is it just noise?
The reverb.
I want to make sure that I keep the breathing. The threshold minus 60 will still let my breathing come through, and I'm happy with that. Let me see if I can find another bit where there is just potentially noise. Also, this has been already edited, muted where the microphone is not needed. Right here. Check out.
This video right here. Thank you very much, Dr. Mix.
All right. Now pay attention to what happens to the audio AutoGate. Yeah?
Right here.
Green means open, red means closed.
This video right here.
Off. Of
Dr. Mix.
Right? So right after Dr. Mix, you're not hearing the sound of the ambience, you're not hearing the tail of my voice, if anything, because it's closing it right down. So that is a first way for me to clean up the sound. It may not be the case that you can do this. Like, for example, if you are at the park and there are birds around and you put a gate on your voice, then every time you don't speak, the birds are gonna be muted, which sounds pretty unnatural. So I'm not suggesting that you should use gates everywhere, but if you can, then use it, because it will make your sound slightly cleaner. Let's go to the compressor side of it. Now, I am Italian, I have a loud voice, and I tend to scream. I apologize. But like, for example, I always give it a nice big shout at the beginning. Check out. After the little intro, I go,
Hi, welcome to Dr. Mix.
I know that this will be probably the loudest part, unless I'm like laughing a lot. So I will just look for the fatter sound clips here. And it seems like I've been pretty consistent. But this initial scream, that will poke through a lot. Like check out.
Hi!
I am picking at like minus what, 3?
It's not a mystery.
Everywhere else I'm like
really...
minus 12. All right. Now that's a pretty big jump. So what I want to do is I just want to tame those bursts of voice. This will allow me to turn down these bursts of voice, means that I can turn up everything in this channel, which will make my voice clearer. Let me show you. If I am compressing, now I first have to set the ratio. Ratio, I tend to keep it pretty easy. I would say 2. Ratio of 2 means ratio of 2 to 1. If the output is above 2 dBs of the threshold, then the ratio of 2 to 1 means that it will be pushed down by 1. All right? So it's pretty soft. And that's what we want. We don't want to compress more than 2 or 3 dBs at the most, especially with this compressor, which is a little bit rough. We are not looking for subtleties here. We're looking to just tame my shouty voice.
Hi!
Okay, on that high, here the compressor went off a bit.
Welcome to Dr. Mix.
Let's see if I go somewhere else, like here.
Which is a triple.
See, it's not even acting a lot at all.
Reverb. You have a plate here,
It
hole
just
here.
touches slightly, and I'm at 20 dBs of threshold. Now, if I push the threshold all the way to the left, then I am compressing a lot.
As you move this cursor,
You see?
then you can choose a balance between the three.
So this is what we usually say the compressor is squashing the sound. That's what we mean by squashing. That is definitely not right. But if I am all the way
Let's see
up,
how they sound.
so my threshold is 0 dB, and I'm not even reaching, what am I reaching
let's start
here?
with the
minus 12, so it will never have any effect. But if I, for example, I measure this guy.
Hi!
This is going like below 3. Well, I mean, this is pretty loud. So I am going to set the threshold to a level.
Welcome to Dr. Mix.
I can see the compressor slightly working. Check out.
Hi! Welcome to Dr. Mix.
Right, now we are compressing about 3 or 4 dBs, but for the majority, the compressor doesn't even get into the equation. Now what we can do though, because now the maximal level of the whole voice is pushed down by 3 dBs in the loudest parts, now I can pull up. I can make up. You see, I can make up for that compression. So now I'm pulling up 3 dBs. So now this means this guy has been pushed down by 3 or 4 dBs. But then I have raised the whole thing by 3 dBs. So now all of this part will become louder and this will remain at the same level. You get what I'm saying? If I'm compressing 3 dBs, I'm pushing down this guy by 3 dBs, but then I'm making up with a plus 3 dBs. Now the guy's at the same level. It's just that everything else now is slightly up. And that's what we want. We want some positive compression from below so that you can always understand what I'm saying, even if I'm not shouting at all times. Really. So now we have compressed it a little bit, we've gated it a little bit. What I tend to find with microphones, especially if they're far, is that they don't have a lot of low end. What I tend to do is I listen to the tone of the voice. Also bear in mind, you have to know your speakers. If you have speakers and you've played music through your speakers, you know how music can sound nice and warm and loud and round or aggressive. So you have a point of reference. So I suggest that even if you don't have monitors, then, have a pair of headphones. I like Sennheiser's, these are the Amperior, but they're basically bona fide HD 25s. That's all they are. And I can perfectly mix on this. But you should be on a system where you can tell whether the voice is like super thin or if it is okay. In my case, I think that this voice...
Synthesizers in space. Well, listen, it's
just a little bit too thin. Come on, it lacks bottom because I'm far, because the microphone is what it is, and because my voice is what it is. But I always like some kind of radio type of warmth. I use the parametric equalizer. It's not incredible, but it's not even super bad. It just gets the job done. Here's my typical treatment for the low end. Here you're looking at the frequencies, 30 Hertz up to 100 Hertz. We're talking about low end. Nice warmth. This is the low mids, below 200, 300 Hertz, 400. And now we are in territory of the mids, yeah? 1K, 2K. This is where all the more understandable part of any language really is. Between 1, 2K, around this area, this is the magic spot where most of the magic happens. As long as you can hear this, you can understand the words. You can live without this, you can live without this, but you cannot live without this. Now we're gonna make the whole thing a little bit more pleasurable though. So by touching this button, now I have introduced a high pass filter. This means that this filter is gonna chop off anything that's below 40 Hertz. And that's a good idea because really you don't need below 40 Hertz on YouTube. Majority of people, in fact, are gonna listen to it on a laptop if I'm lucky, or on an iPhone. The real players will listen to it on their, home system or studio system, and then they will really appreciate what I'm doing right there. Filtering out the very low end. This is all rumble stuff that is not even useful at all. But what I am doing after that is I take this low end here. Actually, you know what? Let me take this directly. Where are you? Oh yeah, there it is, L. It's for bass, all right? So I think I can push myself around 100. Maybe I can even go there, but then after like 200, I start going up and then it comes down again. It will make my voice a little bit warmer. Let me show you what I mean by this.
By Isotope, the kind sponsors of today's episode. Let's dive into it.
All right, as I'm doing this, you're also hearing some of the hum.
Neoverb by Isotope, the kind sponsor.
If that's the case, sometimes I do have hum because, my synthesizers around me have transformers and I'm running a lot of stuff in the room. If that's the problem that you have, like in this case, then I would suggest that you check out my other video where I show how to remove noises from my video. That's a completely different story because now we're talking about sound restoration on that department. Here's just sound mixing. I will pretend that low hum is not there. Forgive me for that. This is really raw. But I will try and warm up my voice nevertheless.
Of today's episode. Let's dive into it.
See?
So here's
See?
Neoverb, which is a triple reverb. You have a plate here, hole here,
we don't want to go all the way up there,
here.
but
as
something here, like
cursor,
this, I think it's a good place. We're gaining what, like 1, 2, 3 dBs, not even the 2 dBs. This is subtle stuff, but it does make a difference because your ear are very sensitive.
Can choose a balance between the three of them.
This particular microphone doesn't have any problems on the S's
of today's episode.
When the S is a little bit too sibilant and kind of hurts your ear, in that case, I tend to use a de-esser. Am I going to show you a de-esser? I'm just going to finish with EQ.
So here's Neoverb, which is...
If the sound is good, I could even take a little bit of this top end and give it a little bit air. Because my S's are around here, okay? 4, 5, 6K hertz. And this is, check out.
A triple reverb. You have a plate here, hole here.
This makes it a little bit high-tech when you do that. And it can be really annoying. But if you just do a little touch, like that.
Reflections up here. As you move this cursor.
That will make it a little bit more hi-fi, if you know what I mean. It will say, this recording is expensive, subliminally. Otherwise, if you look at this curve, it's like a very gentle smile. You see? Like this. Usually I don't need to do much more to a microphone. If I need some de-essing, then I'll show you how a de-esser works. De-esser. Amplitude and pressure de-esser. This particular de-esser isn't great, but it gets the job done. Right now, there is no excess sibilance, in my view, but I'm still gonna try and show you how it works. So this is basically a compressor that only compresses a focused part of the audio spectrum, which is between 3K and 7K, which is where the S's are.
I have a few tricks that I use to make this.
So let me try and compress, I'm gonna pull down the threshold to make it act more.
Very big, lush reverbs.
But now it's catching on big, lush reverbs. It's just not just the S's.
I also use delays.
So maybe we have to go a little bit there to catch the S's.
And I'm going to use delays today, but let me show you first.
I'm telling you, this is not a great de-esser. But
synthesizers in...
See, on the synthesizer, that's pulling it down a little bit. So maybe, just
bass. Well, listen, it's not a mystery that I really, really like reverbs, and I think...
Reverbs? Am I catching the S there?
Well, listen, it's not a mystery that I really, really like reverbs, and
the fact is also that we don't have excessive sibilance, so it's not really detecting it. Again, it's not the greatest de-esser, but when you have too much sibilance, you can try and use this one. Concept is the same. You have to look for when the S's arrive and how much you're compressing there. T, S, that kind of stuff. Ooh, I can output the sibilants only.
I think they make synthesizers
Oh.
sound amazing. I have a few tricks that I use to make this very
Oh, yeah, you see?
lush reverbs. I also
Okay, now I'm zeroing in on that S. All right, so this S is particularly high. Huh, that doesn't seem likely. But anyway, let's try and compress that now.
very big, lush reverbs.
Okay, now you see reverbs.
Very big, lush reverbs.
So when I touch this output sibilants only, I'm just listening to what the compressor is listening to. It's just listening to that frequency. I basically try to focus on the sibilants, all right?
I also use delays, and I'm going to use delays today.
See?
I also use delays, and I'm going to use delays today.
That's that's the thing we're looking for. So now basically I have prepared the voice, but
Hi, welcome to the...
we want to be louder than this. I will talk about loudness, about levels. Some companies, like YouTube in the past, have expressed their preferences in terms of how loud the music should be. Of course, when I say how loud it should be, I mean not only
to Dr. Mix.
how close we are to zero, but how much I'm using compression in order to lift the volume, the perceived level of the music. This is like the minimum amount of discernible audio information. This is the peak. This is my voice. This is the top of my voice. And this is the quietest part of my voice. So if I compress the peaks, then I can lift everything up. As a result, it means that everything is louder. And I can do it even more. I mean, I cannot go any higher because I've reached zero here. But if I compress more, I'm gonna push like 1 dB more. Now I'm gonna push everything up again. Now I'm 1 dB louder, right? This is something that YouTube in the past has claimed to enforce. So you cannot artificially get things too loud because it becomes unpleasant. And if on one side you want to be loud, because if you're louder, then you're louder than other people. So comparatively, your music and your voice sounds more in your face. YouTube, at some point, they said that they enforced at, I think, -14 LUFS. We're getting too technical. What I tend to do is I tend to compress just a little bit and keep it all the way near to zero at the most. I will let the voice and the music not hit over zero, but push a little bit against that zero. How do I do that? I do that by adding a hard limiter. This limiter has very few controls, but I know how it works. I just use it by ear, even if it doesn't show exactly how much it's compressing. So this is the time where it gets louder. Get ready.
Today, we're going to talk about synthesizers in...
So I'm looking here at the loudest part.
Hi, welcome.
I'm touching at -6. So if I say input boosts by 6 dB, yeah, 6 dB, now I know that this is gonna touch nearly zero.
Hi, welcome to Dr. Mix.
Right? And this is pretty much where I like to keep it. Let me turn down the volume a little bit, because otherwise it will get too loud for this video. Let's keep on working on this. So,
How you guys doing? Welcome to Dr. Mix.
I think I can give it even more, so probably I'm gonna give it 7 dBs.
Today, we're going to talk about synthesizers in...
I want to see this become a little bit red. I don't want to see the level glued to zero. I don't want to see that.
Then you can choose a...
I want to make sure that my voice is pretty much going in that direction. Also because what happens, I hate those YouTube programs where you are up and about, you're maybe in the tube and you have your earbuds and the tube is louder than the mix. Has it ever happened to you? If you turn the volume up on your iPhone, you still cannot hear because the noise is louder than the mix. I hate when that happens. I just make sure that I hover between -6 and 0 so that you're always able to hear it.
Between the three of them. Let's see how they sound. So let's start with the reverb assistant, which allows us...
The limiter, the hard limiter, will make sure that if I go above 0, it will squash it right down. Even if it's just for, a few milliseconds, it just will not allow the audio to distort.
The main shape of the reverb.
So when I see this,
So here you got...
I am happy. Now let's listen to some music. Right. This again happens to be at the right level because without the limiter, let me turn it off for a second. This is hovering around -12 again. So when I turn this on, it's going at around -6, which is, you know, pretty respectable level for this kind of music. Let's see how it compares to the level of my voice.
Using the Chorus Echo SRE55.
It's pretty okay because the music is there, it's nice and loud, I can hear it, and it's not like my voice is on a much different level.
Now I have a very good delay.
If I do this correctly, so I keep them pretty much at the same level, you don't have to keep on turning up and down the volume. So this is what mixing is. It's leveling. It's making sure that all the levels are consistent, that I can hear the voice, and the music is in the right balance between my voice and everything else. Right? I can definitely let big gaps of being quiet because it's music. So even when I make these performances and I play things, I always try to give dynamics so that it doesn't feel like in your face all the time. It gives you a little bit of break. And I'm doing that right this moment. Right? And it's fine that it goes here. But then when I go back and speak, then the dynamics
Synthesizer.
keep my voice in check. Check out.
Why not testing it on a synthesizer?
See? Now, I would have been too loud if it wasn't for this compressor. So that's it. Not too artificially inflated, not too quiet, round, and with consistency. So I hope this tutorial is useful to you. I apologize if I've been a little bit long, but you know, I am passionate about this and I want to make sure that I give you as much knowledge as I can based on my very personal experience. If you find this useful, well, it would be very kind of you to subscribe to this channel, yes, and hit the bell, yes, and you may want to watch that other episode where I clean up audio for Adam Savage. Yeah, stay safe, be happy, stay inspired, love one another, and watch this video next. This video.